Hey there, it's Rob Knight, and I wanted to start my series of basic photography tips with maybe the most basic tip of all, and that's how to hold your camera. When you're not using a tripod, it's really important to use good technique so that you can get the sharpest images possible. Even if you're using a camera with wonderful IS like my Olympus cameras, good technique definitely helps. So I'm going to talk about using normal lenses, and I'm going to talk about super telephotos, and I hope you'll pick up some tips that you can use. Thanks for watching. I know a lot of people at this point have come to interchangeable lens cameras and more advanced photography from cell phones or from point and shoot cameras or even from a small DSLR with a kit lens, right? And these are lightweight tools and you don't really have to hold them that tightly, right? You can hold the camera like this. We can use the screen in the back and frame up our shots like that. And for a lot of things that works just fine for regular photography. When we get into telephoto lenses, we get into heavier gear, we're gonna start to have a good technique to maximize how still we are as a platform if we're not using a tripod. And you gotta think of yourself like that. You are the platform that you're resting this camera on. So you'll notice just there even, my natural way that I hold a camera is very tight. This is the way I've been using these tools for years. It's instinctive and you need to practice so that it gets to be instinctive when you're photographing as well. So the thing I always think about is I want to hold the camera with my left hand and operate the camera with my right hand, right? If I'm holding the camera with my right hand and operating the camera with the same hand, then anytime I press the shutter release, I'm also moving the camera. And you can see, if I just hold that like that, you can see every time I push the button, it moves the camera, right? So what we want to do is hold the camera with the left hand. I always have palm up. If I'm using a bigger camera like the EM1X here, I'm going to kind of rest the camera in my hand like this, right? If I'm using a longer lens, I will rest the lens in my hand. So I'm holding the heaviest part of the whole equipment as stable as I can do it, right? I see a lot of people using camera like this. Again, I think this bad habit comes from using lighter weight equipment. Using, you know, if you've got a Canon Rebel and a kit lens that's plastic, it's no big deal to hold the camera like this, right? And you're framing the shots like this. But if you want to have really nice, sharp shots at ridiculously low shutter speeds, then it's important to learn how to hold the camera correctly, right? If you're holding the camera like this, what's supporting that camera? Your thumb, right? And the hand that's operating the camera. So there's nothing stable about this, right? It's just this. The other thing you'll notice, I don't even do it, I don't even think about it. I'm pulling my elbows in, right? I want to be as stable as possible. If I'm out here, I'm not going to be as stable. Let me do that so you can see. It's just not as stable, right? So I want to be tucked in. I want to have the camera supported in my left hand. I'm operating the camera with my right hand. Now the other part is to use the viewfinder. And I'm actually going to rest this part of the viewfinder on the bone on my skull at the top here. I'm actually going to rest that there and tuck my elbows in, right? And make myself as still as possible. That just takes away all the variables. Any of this, you know, kind of loosey-goosey holding the camera out here, using the screen. I do use the screen to frame a shot sometimes, but if I'm really trying to, especially with a telephoto lens, if I'm really trying to hold the camera still, I'm going to get it small and tight and still as I possibly can. So when you're using a longer lens, I mentioned with the 12-100, supporting the camera and the lens with your offhand, with your left hand, right? So I'm going to set this lens in my hand like this, right? So in the case of the 1X, it's actually resting on the heel of my hand. The lens is in my hand so I can actually operate the zoom ring without moving it. Again, if I'm holding it like this, I'm not supporting the camera and the lens with anything except my thumb, right? Plus, if I move the zoom ring, then again, I'm kind of can't help but be loosey-goosey with it, right? I'm kind of out here. Now, I have seen some people who shoot like this, and they'll tuck their elbows in and still have the palm up, but sort of with their arm inverted, right? The issue I see with that is, again, if I want to control the camera, I'm then moving it. If I'm supporting the camera with my left hand, operating the zoom ring, I can do that without moving the camera very much at all. So another thing is the lens collar, right? Or the tripod collar on the lens. I like to keep mine at about 2 o'clock from my viewpoint. So that way, if I'm holding the camera regular horizontally, that's fine and it's out of my way. And if I hold the camera vertically, it's the same way. It doesn't get into my fingers at all. And then if I need to, I can switch it down and attach the camera to the tripod like that. I don't like holding on to the tripod foot. That just is not comfortable to me. For me, it doesn't feel like a lot of contact with the lens. If that's the way you like to shoot, fine. In my experience, that is not as secure as just moving it out of the way and using your entire hand on the bottom of the lens like this, right? It's just a lot more secure purchase on the lens. It sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Better technique equals sharper pictures. Now, please let me know in the comments below if there's other tips that you'd like to see. In fact, this video was inspired by a comment on one of my previous videos. So let me know what you'd like to see. And stay tuned for more photography tips, or better yet, just hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you next time.